I just want to talk this morning about faith. Faith in the midst of trials. It says, don't be surprised by fiery trials as though something strange is happening. And James, the brother of Jesus, even talks about consider it an opportunity for great joy because you'll develop patience and endurance through trials. However, the faith piece can just be really challenging. And I always lean back to the Psalms. King David really just poured his heart out to God and his feelings, and it was just so authentic. His struggles and his doubts and his fears and his worries. And, I think the encouragement there is that God is big enough to handle our emotions. I think the important thing is taking him to God. And something else that I really find interesting, I was thinking about this morning, is that if we think about King David, most of us immediately go to the story of David and Goliath. And I just want you to think about this for a second. Who wrote about the story of David and Goliath? Who recorded that? It wasn't King David. It was Samuel. The prophet Samuel wrote about David and Goliath. Well, we would maybe consider to be King David's greatest triumph, conquering the Philistine, the giant, and delivering Israel from the war. The reality of that is that he didn't even write about it. He didn't even write it down. What he wrote about was his anguish and his sorrow and hiding in caves from King Saul and being on the run and being hungry and tired and pretending to be crazy, and his sins, his shortcomings. Those are the things that King David recorded. And so him recording that relationship that he had with God, always going back to God and just being transparent with God about the way he was feeling in those times of anguish and frustration and trials and pain, and not writing about the victories, that's really interesting. And so I think the encouragement is that it's a perspective thing. When we look back, we tend to focus on the problems. We tend to focus on the negatives. And we're conditioned to do that because if you can identify problems, you can solve them and make things better. It increases your likelihood of survival. We're wired and geared to identify problems. However, when we shift our focus over to the positives, to the triumphs, we can see that God is always working. His hand is always in things. And it's interesting how sometimes our greatest trials and our greatest pain is usually what causes the transformation that leads to, success. I would encourage you that if you're struggling right now, if you're going through a hard time, if you're struggling with your faith, if you're wrestling with that peace, take it to God. And surround yourself with community. Don't isolate. Small groups or, volunteering. Go do something new. Go start building the life that you want to have. Go become the person that you want to be. Let the pain and the struggle be the catalyst for change, not what holds you back. And I just really wanted to share that, how King David's focus was always on his anguish and his trials and his tribulation and his pain, and how he just poured that out in such an authentic way to God. And there's no magic prayer. There's no special set of words that you need to say. Just start talking to God. Just take it to him and tell him exactly how you feel. If you're angry, it's okay. If you're full of doubt, ask him to help you with that. If your faith is weak, ask him to help you with that. Tell him, be honest with him. Be transparent. But take it to God. And that's always going to be the answer. There's no magic solution. Sometimes we just have to sit in it and rest in that and let God do a work in us and trust that his grace is sufficient. Paul says that he prayed 3 times and the answer was no. God would not remove the thorn from his flesh. What did he say? He said, my grace is sufficient. My power is made perfect in weakness. And then Paul goes on to talk about how he's just starting to celebrate his weaknesses. And, that's my hope as I go through this season of challenges and of healing and of grief and of loss and of pain, is that I will be able to look back and learn to celebrate in my weakness, because it's only when I'm weak and I'm at the end of my rope and I'm at the end of the line and my faith is running low and I'm just full of all these questions and emotions, that's when God shows up and he can do a work, is when I get out of his way. And so if you're struggling with your faith, I want you to know that it's okay, that God can handle it. And, just want to point you to some of the Psalms, maybe Psalm 42, Psalm 77, Psalm 34, verse 18. God is close to the brokenhearted. He's there with us in the midst of pain. And it talks about that in Isaiah 53:3, that Jesus was no stranger to pain. He was a man of many sorrows. And so you're not alone, and it's okay. And I hope you guys have a blessed day. And hope this helps somebody. Like and subscribe. I'm going to keep them coming at you. And don't give up the fight. Put one foot in front of the other. Press into God and see what he has for you.